What's up, G Show Land? It is me, G1, once again joined by G95. What's up, bro?
Hello.
Yes, and today is Tuesday, which means it is our Star Wars podcast time, and I love it. The G Show's Force Awakenings, Episode 2. So, basically, what we do here, of course, is Star Wars. So, we just talk all Star Wars, and today we're going to talk about a big plot point that a lot of people are trying to figure out in the Force Awakens and who is he in the bigger picture, and that is Supreme Leader Snoke. We're going to throw some theories at you. We're just going to talk shop Star Wars and see where he fits in the bigger tapestry of a galaxy far, far away. So, first up, who is Snoke? What's your theory, G95?
I've been subscribing to the whole Darth Plagueis thing. That he's Darth Plagueis and he somehow survived, and he's kind of just picked up where the Emperor left off. I don't know how that would fit all in. It seems a little bit too predictable. I don't think they would want fans to kind of know everything that's going to happen, before it happens. But that seems the most logical at the moment.
Right. Yeah. See, I disagree. I'm hoping Snoke is somebody else. I don't want it to be Plagueis. Actually, I rather it's kind of crazy with Snoke because there's a bunch of visual cues, if you will, where his face is all a certain way, and of course people are quick to point, oh, it could be a reincarnated Anakin or this, that, and that. I don't buy none of that stuff. But the face is very interesting. It's an interesting point. And depending on if it is Plagueis and Palpatine really didn't do a good job, I just find it hard to believe it would be Plagueis and he'd be sitting out for almost 60 years now, you know, to come back and try to take over. So, it's rough. This is such a weird character. Like, why would they surround this character and shroud this character in mystery? It's so weird. There has to be something important about him for them to do that. I mean, because there has to be a payoff. But see, not everybody knows who Darth Plagueis is. You know? So, the way I look at it is if you take, like, your average moviegoer who knows Star Wars but doesn't know the lore, the mythology, everything outside of the movies, they don't know who Plagueis is. It's a throwaway name in Episode 3, and they probably don't even remember that. This is your average moviegoer, okay? And they were like, "Who is that?" The Emperor's Master, and it's kind of like a turn off. Like, really, they went to the Emperor's Master? What, like, where was he the whole time? So, in that sense, it's kind of like it would leave like a foul stench if it was Plagueis, because we really don't know much about him. Of course, if you read the novels or follow the comic books and the deep into the canon and the lore, you're going to understand who he is. You'll know who he is and how he fit into the tapestry. But for the average person, it's kind of like been here, done that type of thing. Really, we're going, who was that in the first place? So it's kind of rough. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It adds up in my mind. But I'd be fine if it didn't turn out to be Darth Plagueis. But we've only been given so much information about Snoke. We can only look at what's been presented to us in The Force Awakens, and if because fan speculation is always like, oh, it's somebody else from a previous movie, or somebody else from the mythology of Star Wars, whether it be expanded universe or legends, if you will, or previous movies or cartoons or whatever. So we can only look at what we've been presented and connect it to what else we've been presented that's quote unquote canon. And Plagueis seems to make sense at the moment. But like I said, I wouldn't be upset if it didn't turn out to be him.
Right. I have a wild, crazy, reaching theory that maybe it's Ezra from the Star Wars Rebel show. Did you get to watch that? By the way, did you get to finish the rest of season
I
two?
still haven't finished it. I still have 3 episodes of season 2 left,
Well, okay.
so it's just starting to pick up.
Okay, I say that he's got like there's similarities to the looks. Of course, one is well, they're both all CG, but one's cinematically done, whereas opposed to the children's cartoon, even though it's really not a children's cartoon, it is a great show all around. Um, but there's similarities there between the two in the face. Look, there's little similarities. The eyes that while watching Force Awakens and Rebels, it's kind of like, could it be this kid who goes to the dark side? Is that why they're setting him up? Is that why this show Rebels is on? Because Rebels is going to coincide with Rogue One. It's got to run into each other somehow. It's all it'll be coming to a head in December.
Not
when the movie
necessarily,
comes out.
because Rogue One or Rebels takes place, I think, 5 or 6 years before. No, like 3 years before, 3 or 4 years before New Hope. So
Yeah,
that's
you're right.
2 to 3 years before Rogue One.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Some people say that Rogue One is within a few weeks of New Hope, but I mean, maybe down the line there'll be some kind of interconnection. But I think they're going to try to keep them separately from now. And I also don't think that Snoke looks human to me.
Really?
Obviously Ezra Bridger is human or humanoid, and I don't think Supreme Leader Snoke looks human to me.
Oh, that's
which I think is. I mean, when we first saw the Emperor, he didn't look human either.
Right.
It's the dark side. I don't remember the name, the specific word for it, but if you get too in deep with the dark side, your face gets all fucked up. And that's why they got the yellow eyes and all that. And so it could be that, but I don't think he is. Some people are saying that Benicio del Toro who's playing a villain in Episode 8.
Right.
People are saying he might be an older dark side Ezra.
That would be kind of crazy. I don't know if I would buy that. I would love to see Benicio del Toro be a Grand Admiral with blue skin. I don't know. Give me some Grand Admiral Thrawn. I would love that because he has a certain, I believe he could play like a regal stature.
Yeah.
So
he's a talented actor, so he could pull it off. And I mean, canonically, the Empire never recruited. I mean, in the EU they did, but in the movies, they're never recruited any non-humans.
Well, one can make an argument that they are picking and choosing what they want to take from canon and what they want to keep in canon and what they want to take from the EU. Because
what I'm saying is the Empire didn't take any any non-humans, any alien species in. It's kind of obviously a little racist sort of.
Right.
Not illusion. But this is the First Order, and we haven't really seen a whole lot from them, so there could be, they could be bringing non-humans into the mix. We haven't seen that, but, maybe Captain Phasma under her awesome chrome armor isn't human, but
that would be awesome. That would really be awesome, actually. Wow, that's a really cool idea. I never thought of it like that. I would actually like that. I would like for her to be a part of that race, Thrawn's race. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm just geeking out. I'm a fanboy big time of that Heir to the Empire trilogy. I love those Timothy Zahn books. So Thrawn is always a favorite of mine, and I know he's a fan favorite. And I would love to see him in a cinematic universe. And it could be done. I mean, look at Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. Guess what? He was blue. So
yeah.
So it could be done. It could be done very believably. And I mean, it's Lucasfilm, it's ILM, so I have nothing but faith in them. But all right, so you don't think Snoke would be Ezra? Okay, You think he's an alien, which is weird. See, because he does have like a. But I chalk that up to the mutilation. I chalk that up to his badly scarred and deformed face. Like he's missing a nose. He's got the big gash on his head. It's kind of like, and then he's old, apparently. So that's what I chalk that up to. But it'd be interesting if he wasn't, and if he wasn't human and he was an alien. That, you know, where would you go? Like what race? I guess it's Star Wars. You could create anything you want.
Well, I mean, The Force Awakens featured almost exclusively new races of aliens. You know, we didn't see any Twi'leks or any of the races we're used to seeing in Twilight or in Star Wars. Excuse me. Besides, obviously the fan favorites like Chewie and Admiral Akbar and Naboo and stuff. The ones that you kind of have to put in there. But there was none of the common races like the Twi'leks or Twi'leks, however you want to pronounce it, or whatever race Ponda Baba was with the big tusk thing and the weird insect in the eyes. We didn't see any of that. It was in the more or less cantina scene in Maz's palace or whatever you want to call it. That was all new races, so it would be very easy for them to throw something in there. And another thing to kind of go towards the Snoke being Darth Plagueis theory is in the now non-canon books, Darth Plagueis was the same race as Yarael Poof or Proof, the Jedi with the really long neck and the small head.
Yes.
Darth Plagueis is supposed to be that race in that book, which is now non-canon. But Snoke does look very similar to that race. I think obviously he doesn't have the super long neck, but he's got the misshapen kind of head and the milk white, yellowy kind of skin. I think that might have been that's another not necessarily clue, or it could have been sort of a nod or a wink, if you will, at like, hey, this might be Darth Plagueis.
Right. Let me ask you: do you think we're going to see Plagueis in Rogue One?
We might see Snoke in Rogue One. We obviously.
That's what I meant. I was caught up all of a sudden thinking Plagueis. Yeah, I meant Snoke. Do you think we're going to see Snoke?
That's fair. I confused Star Wars with Twilight, so. And I'm going to get shit all over for that one.
He said Twi'lek. He said Twi'lek.
Yeah, Twilight, it sounds similar. Anyway, I don't know. I really don't know. We had our back to dank discussion last week, obviously. But it's so hard to say because details on Rogue One have been so scarce.
Right.
Surprisingly.
One interesting piece of detail came out. Mads Mikkelsen was in an interview last week, and he kind of dropped some spoiler-ish stuff concerning his character in the movie. And it was kind of like, I mean, to me it wasn't like a big deal, honestly. It wasn't. But then you have, fanatics that, oh, wow, why? But basically he was like, he is the main character's father. So that's, you could take that as a spoiler, but honestly, it's, for me, like, that's not a big deal. Because this is not, because it's Star Wars and he's playing the main character's father and he's a bad guy and apparently she's like a rebel, or rebellious team, I should say. Don't try to compare it to Empire Strikes Back. It doesn't hold the same weight at all. It's just what it is. He's an Imperial who happens to be this girl's father. So, yeah, that dropped this week. He dropped that. I don't know how Disney responded, because they like to keep everything under wraps. But and if they don't respond, then maybe that's, again, it's just one of those things. It's like, it's not really important to the story. I mean, it could.
I doubt it will be a big story point, or, I mean, people disagree with their parents on, people go down different paths of life, in both Star Wars and real life. It's not a big deal to me.
Right. Yeah, that's how I feel. Definitely not. But that back to tank scene, that's very interesting. I still believe it's probably Palpatine in there, and not Snoke. I don't think we're gonna see Snoke. I think actually, I think they said we weren't gonna see Snoke in this. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look that up again. But how big of a role do you think Snoke is gonna have in Episode 8? Is it gonna be kind of like what Yoda was to Luke? Are we gonna get the reverse, and we're gonna see Snoke train Kylo Ren the way Yoda was training Luke in Empire? Or you think we're gonna have Luke and Rey because we got to go on the good guy journey? What do you think?
I think it'll be both. I don't think we'll get like a big training sequence of Snoke riding on Kylo Ren's back or anything, but I think Snoke will be featured a lot more heavily, and I think that we'll get probably some more backstory on him. And I think Kylo Ren will probably drift even further into the dark side, which I think would be really cool. He was struggling with that pull to the light, which I think was such an interesting aspect of Episode 7 that really got overlooked. I think that was one of the most brilliant parts of the movie.
Right.
And I think Episode 8 might even be even more about that struggle. Or I'd be sad if they dropped that totally and he was just, full on dark side now. But it would also be really cool because we'd be seeing Kylo Ren, hopefully fully trained and just the living up to the badass potential that he obviously has.
So you think, well, you want to see the struggle again with Kylo?
Yes.
I think it's done. I think he's full-blown Sith. You killed your father, it's over, Prime. You know what I mean? Like, he's done. I think he's a total... I don't know if you could be redeemed, and I don't think he wants to be redeemed. I think he wants to be just... He wants to be what Vader was. He wants to be better than Vader. That's his whole thing. And yes, Vader... He had his redemption at the end of Return of the Jedi. And Vader didn't necessarily start out evil, and neither did Ben Solo. But I think that's where he's more inclined to going straight on, full on, dark side forever, as opposed of being redeemed at the end. You understand what I'm saying? I think we need like a straight evil character. The redemption stories are cool, but I don't know if you constantly need that in Star Wars. It worked. It worked with Vader. It worked with Vader. We got to see the most baddest dude in the galaxy continue to be bad. Find out he's like the father of the savior, and then at the end, when he sees his son getting killed, said, "You know what? I can't let that happen," and handles his business. And you come to find, because Vader was a Jedi. Vader was the best star pilot in the galaxy, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I don't want history to repeat itself. I want new stories like the EU. The EU didn't do that. When they were going and they were telling their stories, it was, well, fuck it, let's just tell these crazy stories and we can get away with it. That's what I want this batch of Star Wars movies to do. You don't have to redeem Kylo Ren. If you want to, I guess it's cool, but he killed Han Solo. He don't have my respect at all. You're done.
I don't know. I think it would be more of an interesting character dynamic for him deal with that struggle, because we didn't, up until Return of the Jedi, we didn't see Darth Vader really struggling with it. He was the ultimate badass and stuff. Obviously, we got it in the prequels, but that was different, and they really could have handled that differently, and it would have worked out better.
They should have,
but
yeah,
different different topic, I think. The way they handled it in Force Awakens, I think, was brilliant, with him more or less praying to Darth Vader's helmet. And I know there was concept art of Anakin was supposed to, in a draft of the script, or there was at least concept art of this with that would have had Anakin's Force Ghost talking to Kylo Ren and going kind of back and forth between Anakin and Darth Vader, and that would have been so cool to see, because then he would have been getting the mixed messages. He would have, felt even more conflicted, I think. And as much as I do want to see a full-blown, not necessarily Sith, because he's not really Sith, he's just dark side, Kylo Ren, full-blown badass, fully evil motherfucker, I guess. I do want to see that struggle more, because I think it was a really interesting story arc to see that from the opposite perspective, and not necessarily see someone whining so much. I mean, I know people complained about Kylo Ren quite a bit, but I didn't have a problem with him. I thought it was pretty cool.
I know my wife hated that, and I'm like, it's awesome. Are you kidding me? I loved it. I thought it was great, him whining like that, being like that. He was a brat. He was getting upset. Things weren't going his way, and he's just like, rah. I like that. It was cool. Plus, to me, by doing that, he's tapping into the dark side even more. It's making him stronger. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the gist of it. Yoda said it all the time, So, yeah, I dug that part. I did. So, all right, you see Kylo with a redemption tale. Well, then what? If that on that,
I don't necessarily see him as being redeemed, but I just want to see that struggle more. I agree that he doesn't want to be redeemed, but he feels that pull, that natural pull to the light. Obviously, being trained by Luke and being the son of two of the good guys in the Star Wars universe, the two of the three top good guys.
Right.
So it makes sense to be pulled that way. Just like we had our discussion last week about Anakin being a product of dark side manipulation, with Plagueis messing with midi-chlorians and creating Anakin. So it makes sense that he was naturally pulled to the dark side. Maybe we get that with Kylo Ren, just naturally being inclined to be on the light, except he doesn't want to be. Right. I think that's really interesting.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'd like to see some of those things you said. I do. I just think he's done. But again, you grew up with Han Solo. You're just like, you can't do that to him. What the hell? So that's just me being personally biased and not paying any attention to some really cool story points, potential. So what about? All right, so they train. We see a lot more Snoke. Hopefully, we get to know who he really is in this one, in Episode 8. He's training with Kylo. Do you think? I don't know how to word this question here. I just drew a blank. Forget that. That was a topic for another time. We'll come back to that. Similarities between the movies. So, we discussed last week. Even though I hate when people say Episode 7 is kind of like a rehash of Episode 4, and I don't buy into that. And we went into, does Episode 8 need to be a rehash of Empire Strikes Back? Does this story, because it's the middle of a trilogy, so we know every time the middle of the trilogy happens, that's the darkest one. That's the one where your hero is in the most peril, the most danger, something happens. Do you think, I don't want to say limbs get chopped off Because do we really need to see arms flying? Like, did anybody lose a limb in episode 7? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think. I mean, not anyone important necessarily.
That was
my friend thought that Kylo Ren's hand got cut off, but if you watch, even with paying like half attention, if you just glance at the screen, you can tell he doesn't lose his hand.
right.
You know, he's got both of them. But my friend's a moron.
Oh boy, that's wrong.
Yeah, I don't. They might be, I don't know, trying to veer away in some ways from the
Loss
I
of
guess
limbs.
tropes of Star Wars,
Yeah.
which I'm fine with. You know, make it your own, JJ.
That's
I'm fine with that. Really.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I mean, they turn it into something new, something fun. I mean, it's still familiar. We know it. Everything is set. We know the universe. We get to see new planets now. We're exploring different places, but it still feels the same. And that to me is like the beauty of it. And now you got some really talented directors on it too. Ryan Johnson doing episode 8. That's going to be fun because his stuff is pretty heavy, you know. So
What else has he done?
Looper.
I didn't see Looper.
You get to see Looper. It's pretty good. That's with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis.
I know what it is. I just didn't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. If you get a chance, watch that one. Rent it. But he's a heavy hitter as far as he's going to bring a good tone to this movie. That's how I feel. All right, so Snoke is training Kylo Ren. Rey's with Luke. Daisy Ridley has a couple of Instagram things because I follow her on her videos. She showed her training with the stick, doing jump kicks in the air. It looks funny stuff. I don't know if that's all going to be in the movie, of course, but it's cool to see that she's training to use a sword like legit. We should get an epic lightsaber battle, like because I love Episode 7's lightsaber battle. It was just like raw power.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be two people who were untrained.
Right.
Supposed to be sloppy, and they were deliberately trying to get away from the highly choreographed, albeit awesome fight scenes of the prequels. So I'm hoping for something unbelievably awesome in Episode 8.
Do you think Luke uses the lightsaber, they'll go the Episode 3 route and superimpose his face on a stuntman's body? Or should we see Luke retain his classic lightsaber skills? I mean, because it's been 30 years, he has to have gotten some knowledge. You know, something different. I mean, he don't need to be flying around like Yoda was, but it would be cool to see Luke opening up a can of ass whipping, you know?
I think we'll probably get that to some degree, but maybe in Episode 8. Or in 9, excuse me. I feel like this next one is going to be mostly Rey and Kylo Ren's story. A lot more than it is anybody else. You know, Episode 7 was kind of bringing the universe back together, or bringing the Star Wars universe back together, bringing all these characters together and reintroducing the new ones. I think they're going to kind of, and giving, you know, nods and homages to Episode 4. I think Episode 8 is going to kind of veer off from that even more. You know, we're going to get probably a lot less tropes. They've done the homages. They've reset up the universe. Now I think they're just going to kind of go wild with it, which sounds awesome.
I hope they do. I really do. Yeah, I don't need Empire Strikes Back for Episode 8. But so you think more Rey and Kylo? What about Finn and Poe Dameron? These really big characters now play a big part of this universe. Especially like Finn, I honestly think he's going to have a huge role. As much as Poe Dameron was my favorite character with the least amount of time on screen because of him being like a fighter pilot, whatever. I think he might bite it and and get the heroic death in episode 8. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's no other Death Star, or as much as I like Death Stars, I can't deal with something else. They just and that was one of my biggest issues with episode 7. Honestly, that was one of my biggest issues with episode 7. We have this giant base, planet base, and you blow it up. You could have crippled it. Because where do you go? You have to change the game now, like completely. And the only way you can change the game is to have, because the concept art you were talking previously about Vader and Anakin, like switching back and forth, which would have been crazy to see on screen. And the way you described it with him giving conflicting messages to Kylo Ren, I think that's just genius. Like that would have been awesome, because he's just like, well, which one do I listen to? I want to be you, but damn it, there's something about you that, it pulls to me, it draws me. So I've seen concept art, because I have that book. There's a page that I was blown away with that I'm hoping goes into, I would say, episode 9. Because now that you destroyed this planet, there is absolutely nothing you can do in terms of super weapons. You had a planet. You had a moon. Then you had another moon. Now you have a planet. It's impossible to do anything bigger than that, right? So this concept art I saw was a bunch of Jedis and a bunch of Siths, and lightsabers were lit up, and like it was like a pulled back picture, so they were small, but all the Jedis had, and then you could tell it was Luke Skywalker standing like at the top with the Jedi's, his lightsaber, green, glowing, beautiful, and all the red Sith ones. And it was like, that's where we need to go. We need to get that giant Jedi-Sith war. And the best part about that is, they're not even going to be Jedi or Sith. They're just going to be Force wielders who were learning, because Luke does not have anybody on that island besides him and now Rey. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't secretly training Jedi. That would be crazy if he was. I'd be like, okay, explain this. And he's like, yeah, my Underground Railroad here with all my Jedi in hiding. We've been doing.
Is that a theory?
That's a theory. That's me. That's me being, just theorizing stuff. I wouldn't understand how that would come to pass, especially because the look he gives Rey, which could be a look of knowing, oh shit, you're back, or knowing, holy shit, who you like. I don't know. Maybe it could deal with the lightsaber. I have no clue. I can't wait to see. But I would love to see the beginning, the formation of a new Jedi Order here and a new Sith Order. Because honestly, if Snoke is Plagueis, which again, I don't know, why can't he create an army of Sith? That would be great. I mean, back in the old, like Knights of the Old Republic, which I really don't keep up with because I don't like to go backwards. I like to go forwards. So I really wasn't big into any of the Knights of the Old Republic stuff. But they had Sith armies, and that's one of those things that you have to see that on screen sometime, please. And as cool as it might be to see it on the small screen in like a format like Clone Wars or Rebels, I need to see that live action, big screen, just holy shit, swashbuckling Star Wars, like, wow.
Yeah, I want to see that to some degree, but I don't think it'd be like an armed Sith necessarily. They're normally like dark side wielders.
Oh yeah, like that. That's what I mean.
Because I presuming that Snoke is Plagueis, then obviously he's going to be like the follower of he's going to adhere to the Sith code like fucking glue. And there's obviously the rule of two, right, which is canon. The whole Darth Bane thing, all of that's canon now, yep, because of Clone Wars.
Yep.
So it'd be. I don't think we'd get to see like an army of Sith, but maybe I do think that the whole Knights of Ren thing is going to be explained a lot more in the sequel, and
that's it right there. The Knights of Ren.
Those are presumably dark side wielders. We didn't see anybody else hold it. Like we saw in the Rey flashback Force Vision thing that there was Kylo Ren holding his lightsaber with a bunch of dudes,
and Boba Fett,
presumably the Knights of Ren.
And Boba
we
Fett.
didn't see any of them. That would be cool if Boba Fett was in there.
No, you did. Like, there's a dude standing off to Kylo Ren's left in that scene. He's wearing Mandalorian armor, and it was like Boba Fett, a Knight of Ren. Like, it was just, of course, all fair there, but it's a cool shot. It looks like Boba Fett. It's Mandalorian armor. Could have been Jango Fett's, but I liked it. It was cool.
But I mean, Mandalorian armor is all generally looks the same.
Still, come on, Boba.
As much as I want Boba Fett to be in the new movies and Boba Fett to be in there, but I don't think he would be part of any organization, really.
No, of course not.
Besides the Bounty Hunters Guild.
I'll tell you what. We'll see Boba Fett again. I want to get back to Knights of Ren thing because it's brilliant, and that's actually where I wanted to go. But just as a side, I do not believe we've seen the last of Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. He will absolutely be back. The way they brought Darth Maul back, Boba Fett will be back in cartoon form. Because here's the thing, Rebels has to end. Mm-hmm. Rebels, there's a definitive end to that because, well, of their time, where they're placed in canon. Once that's done, Disney is not going to jump off the Star Wars animation wagon, not by a long shot. And the next logical step is what I can't wait to see. We do the adventures after Return of the Jedi. So we could get Han Solo back. We get the core group and we see their adventures. Because that's 30-something years up until Force Awakens. And we don't have to go that far. You could do 10 solid years of storytelling. And I'm not saying in our time, but for like Star Wars time. You can tell, let's say, give them 10 years worth of stories. What happened in this 10-year span from Return of the Jedi and then the next 10 years? So I believe that's where we will see Boba Fett again. And it would make a lot of sense to bring him back there.
No, there's too much demand from fans to bring him back.
Listen,
one of the solo movies might be a Boba Fett movie. That's since they've been announced. That's been a big theory. That it was originally not necessarily announced, but theorized that it was going to be a Han Solo movie or Han Solo movie,
right?
Which we are getting. Another was going to be a Yoda movie. And another was going to be a Boba Fett movie. And obviously one of those turned into Rogue One. We're getting our Han Solo movie. And so there's a third one still kind of up in the air as of right now. Which could very well be a Boba Fett movie, which I'd be so down for. Or we could get it back in comic book form, which the Marvel comics are canon with the movies.
Right.
They're in that universe. So I agree. We haven't seen the last of Boba Fett. I think he's too popular of a character to just let die in the Sarlacc pit. George Lucas has even said, like, if I knew how popular he was, I would have given him a better death. So I don't think we've seen the last of him.
Well, thank you, George, for leaving that death wide open when you said the Sarlacc takes 1,000 years to digest its victims. And Boba Fett's crafty, so I totally see him out of that pit. I honestly, I think. Because he did pop up in the Star Wars books, but again, that was before the events of Empire Strikes Back even. So, those are some of the things I don't like when they do, because I'm kind of like, the tiptoeing in between those times, it's rough. You have to make sure nothing contradicts what happens in the movie. Because for me, the movies are it. That's the Bible. If you go against anything that happened in the movie, I don't count it. I don't believe it. You can say it's canon until you're blue in the face. I'm going to probably pee on you. I don't believe, so it's just that's because I'm such a freaking huge fan of the movies and I love them and I literally, those are law. But, so that was our little...
Before the EU was ousted by Disney, there was plenty of contradictory stories to the movies and to the stories themselves. One story would go in a totally different direction than another one. So,
with the EU though, the only prequel stuff I read when it came down to EU was Shadows of the Empire. That was the only one with Prince Caesar, I forget his name.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only one I read, and for me, they actually did a really good job connecting Empire and Return of the Jedi without really contradicting anything. But it's been a very long time since I've read that book. I read that when it first came out, and that book is almost 20 years old now. So that's how long it is. But I've only ever read the stuff that came after. That's why I said I never got into like the Old Republic, even though I know that is people love that. But I never got into that stuff. And like we said last week, the Clone Wars I didn't want to get into because I wanted to see that live action. But then when you sit down and you watch it, as we went into discussion mode last week, it's a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. But let me jump back to your point with the Knights of Ren. That's where I wanted to go, the Knights of Ren. That could be Snoke's army.
We're totally going to get to see more of them. You know, it was kind of like a throwaway line, and then we get to see them briefly, presumably them briefly in Rey's Force Vision. What I think is really interesting is none of them, if they were wielding lightsabers, none of them were on except for Kylo's,
Right.
which I think is interesting. So, I mean, I assume they are a group of dark side wielders. We don't really know yet for certain. So then, you know, if they are, they hopefully have to have lightsabers, and maybe eventually we would get to see them come back, and, you know, if they're not all dead, and we would get to see that big battle that you were talking about.
Yeah, I don't believe they're dead at all. I think they're still around. They're very well, and they're hunting. That's what I believe. They're on the hunt. Because we only got
they're like a new version of the Inquisitors?
I think so, yeah. I think we might see Inquisitor looking... Because I know from the concept book, one of the designs they used for a Knight of Ren that they were going to use didn't make the cut. Turned out to be the big Inquisitor, the big brother... that popped up with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, sister, or whatever her name was. So I was like, whoa, that's awesome that they were like, all right, we're not going to use this here. Okay, we'll use it. Give it to me. We'll use it as an Inquisitor. And it's an imposing look. I love that Inquisitor.
Yeah.
He was just like this brute, monstrous. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I could totally see them being like Inquisitor style, Inquisitor types. But just under the title of Knights of Ren. Which now, here's not a theory of speculation, but a question I'm going to pose. Is Ren one of those thing that, like, I don't think Kylo Ren came up with the name, now I'm going to be, instead of Ben, I'm going to be Ren. I think, could that be a title like Darth was?
I think it is.
You think, right?
I think it is.
All right, that's cool.
Kylo, he might have come up with, or be given, you know, because it's a combination of Skywalker and Solo.
Right.
I mean, if you look at it in a certain light, it is a combination of the two.
It definitely is, yeah.
But Ren, I do think is. I think the Knights of Ren are probably something that's older than he is. You know, older than. I don't think it's, you know, something that's popped up between Jedi and Force Awakens. I think it's probably something that's a pretty old kind of lineage. And I think somehow he got involved with them. That's how he met Snoke, and things kind of spiraled from there. And he was, I think, he was the leader. Snoke said that, but I think it was like the Master of Knights of Ren or something like that.
Right.
It was some mildly throwaway kind of line, which is where the Knights of Ren were first mentioned.
Right.
But I do think it's a title.
You know what?
I assume either all of them. I don't think all of them have the whole like Ren kind of moniker. That'd be a little bit too similar to the whole Darth thing, which you mentioned.
Right.
I think like the leader would get the Ren.
I would think so too, because I was just, and now I'm gonna watch the movie again today because just what it is. I do believe what you just said is right, that maybe the leader gets the title run, because if I'm not mistaken, Hux, him and Hux, they don't get along in the movie. You could tell. They got to be professional, but I think he even calls him just Ren. He might have like trying to tattletale to Snoke. He's like, Ren, let the droid go. Ren thought the girl was better than, so so in that aspect, I'm 100% on board what you just said. The title Ren is for the leader, and that would be, that's dope. That's just really cool shit right there.
You think that General Hux was part of the Night Sun?
No, I do not. I think Hux is straight Imperial. It's in his blood. He's Imperial through and through, and I think Hux wants to be a Grand Admiral. I'm seriously 100% convinced we are going to see a Grand Admiral in Episode 8, because we're going to get one in Rogue One. And I really hope they call them Grand Admirals. There's no reason to change that. Mm-hmm. They should absolutely call it what it is. The Grand Admirals wear the white uniform. Mads Mikkelsen looks absolutely insane in that suit. Again, that shot, him walking through the water and the capes flowing on. Oh my God! It's like, this is fucking awesome.
And just for the people who might not necessarily know or might not have read the Thrawn trilogy, explain what a Grand Admiral is.
Well, the Grand Admiral is basically one of the highest ranks, if not the highest rank you can get in the Empire, besides being Palpatine. They are, they are like I was going to say Supreme Leaders, but that title's already taken. But they are the top of the class. They are the principal of the school, if you will. They are, or the superintendents of the district. They are the number one. They run the fleets. There's a problem that you don't want to have to answer to the Grand Admirals at all. The Grand Admiral should never leave his chambers. If there's a reason for the Grand Admiral leaving his chamber because of an issue or concern, pack your bags and dig your own grave. You're dead. But yeah, and I love them. I honestly, the way Timothy Zahn introduced that whole, and technically, it wasn't like his idea. It was, I guess he came up with the Grand Admiral moniker, but we see dudes in white suits in Episode 4 sitting at the table. Mm-hmm. They're never explained and they're never seen again. Hey, let's take that and let's run. Let's create that was something bigger than what it was. I mean, Grand Admiral's, I believe, is bigger than the Grand Moff. It has to be.
I would think so.
Yeah, even though Tarkin was the man. But yeah, so that's what Grand Admiral is. I think we're going to get one in Episode 8, and I hope it's Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I pray to the midichlorians that it's Benicio del Toro. I would lose my shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want him to play an older Ezra Bridger. As cool as that would be, he would make a pretty cool... is it Thrawn or Thrawn?
Thrawn. It's Thrawn. Yeah, there's an R in there.
Isn't the Thrawn trilogy also the same books that have those little animals that either were like force repellent or something like that?
They created a bubble around the Force where you couldn't... I'm going to butcher this name. I could never... Every time I read it as Y Salami. Y Salami. That's what... Because I can't, for the life of me, pronounce that. It also introduced in one of my favorite characters. See, and that's why I love those 3 books right there. Those 3 books created so much for the rest of the EU. It was ridiculous. Like, literally, what the original trilogy did for movies, those 3 books did for Star Wars canon afterwards, even though it's not canon anymore. But you had the mad Jedi Jarus Kabath, I loved him, and he was like trying to become like the Emperor. It was just some good stuff, man. Good stuff. What were the names? the little bodyguards. Thrawn had a bodyguard. It was an alien species. And the way I always picture them in my head were like kind of like humanoid pit bulls. You know, like short, stocky, and I forget the name of that race, but we went way off. They were awesome. I believe his personal bodyguard was named Ruck or something, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna go read those again too. See, I got a lot of things to do tonight now. Now I gotta watch Star Wars Episode 7. I'm gonna read Star Wars. I'm gonna read Star Wars. I still got other books I gotta read that I haven't even touched yet in Star Wars that I've been dying to read. But that's because I'm stuck on one particular book, which is not really that good. But I don't know. Gotta finish, right? Completionist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all right. Yeah.
They could. I don't think they will. I do agree that we will get to see a Grand Admiral, but I don't necessarily think it'll be Thrawn. But there is possibility to see Thrawn to some degree eventually. I think, because a lot of people get this wrong, but Disney didn't totally oust the EU. They moved it to a separate Legends universe.
Yes.
You know, everybody thinks that the whole thing as a whole is like all of the prequel comics, the games, all of what we got, books, everything is all officially non-canon now. But they moved it to Star Wars Legends, where their exact quote was, maybe not exact, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but their quote was similar to, you know, in the Legends universe, some things are legends and some things are true. So that leaves room for, or there's some truth
to legends. Yeah,
like that.
That was actually in I think the last 2 episodes of Star Wars Rebels. If I'm not mistaken, they actually saved those words. So that's cool.
I will have to get to those then. But so Disney is giving themselves room to pick and choose either storylines or characters or things from the EU and bring them into official canon. We saw that in Clone Wars. You know, Darth Bane was obviously something that was an EU storyline, and from prequel, kind of like thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, wasn't he created from a video game?
No, I think it was comics, I believe.
It was a comic? I thought it was through the games. But again, I don't keep up with that stuff because
I'm pretty sure it was comics, but don't quote me on that. But they brought Darth Bane into the canon with the last couple episodes of Clone Wars.
And if I'm not mistaken, who voiced Darth Bane in that? If I'm not mistaken,
is it Ron Perlman?
No, I believe it was Mark Hamill.
I don't know about that.
I know he was a voice, and he won an Emmy for one of the voices. Was it Clone Wars? It had to be Clone Wars. Or was it Revan? I forget. I'm gonna go look that up though. See, now I got another thing I gotta do.
We didn't see Revan in Clone Wars though.
Then I'm sure it was Bane. I remember it was a Force Ghost, and he won an award for that. So
really? I'll also have to look into that. But that's an example of not necessarily Disney, but
Dave Filoni,
people, higher ups within the Star Wars, I guess, behind the scenes kind of guys, who is an example of bringing in previously canon or non-canon stuff from the Legends universe into the canon universe. And I think that may have happened before the Disney buyout, but it's fucking canon.
Was it?
Is either just before or just after?
I think it might have been just after, because I know I saw the Clone Wars here in Vegas, so and then the Disney was bought out before I moved out here when I was still in New York. So yeah, because season 6 came on, right? So it was after, but I totally understand what you're saying, and that's one of the things that I do love too. I'm a fan of the EU, and I don't mind them having to put it in a separate universe. It's a multiverse thing, and I'm cool with multiverses, right? We're all geeks,
yeah. And
the ability for them to be able to pick and choose certain elements from that. and then drop them into the new canon, I'm totally fine with that. Whether or not they do it, it's all good, because then that means if they don't do it, we got to get some brand new stories. If they do it, I get to see some of the stuff that I read and loved brought to life. And honestly, I think it's the best of both worlds, if you look at it like that.
I mean, I would love to see something more of Star Wars Legacy, I think it was called. That comic was badass.
That's right. Cade,
Luke Skywalker's bounty hunter, like either
descendant.
grandson or great grandson.
Yep, Cade Skywalker. I started reading that. I actually have, I want to say about 40-something issues of that. I was buying, collecting those things when they came out, and then I just stopped collecting comic books, hard copies, because my wife was yelling at me and giving me the evil eye because now I had comic stacks all over the place. And instead of buying boxes like I should have and put them away, they were all over. They were on my desk. They were on my nightstand. Some were on the bed. I don't know why I did that. I was like, get off my comics. But yeah, so that was cool. Listen, man, that will do it for today's. This was a good one, man.
That was a good one.
We come
in. We veered off the topic of Snoke quite a bit, but
that's okay. You know what? This is a Star Wars podcast. We're just gonna have fun, and that's what we do. Because when we just start doing that, we tend to come up with some really cool things and just get into this awesome world that George Lucas. That's right, George Lucas created for everybody. So enjoy the ride along with us every Tuesday on the G Show's Force Awakenings, a Star Wars podcast. I'm G1, and I'm again hanging out with my buddy G95. G95, man, any final words?
May the Force be with you.
He said it. Later.